LPT wash your produce. I just got done watching a brother and sister playing with produce at this order market while their dad was looking at other produce. These kids put one piece of produce after another into their mouths and put it back into the pile. I was not in a position to say anything because we were driving off and I couldn't, but in case you needed another reason to wash your produce, now you have it. I work in a produce department. Please let a worker know. We will immediately remove and destroy anything that was touched, overly sniffed, sneezed over or chew on. The last thing we want is for someone to get sick. I can't tell you how many cherry pits I find. Ew. You don't wash produce because some goober kids were playing with it at the grocery store. That's possibly the mildest stuff you should be washing from your produce. I always assumed somebody scratched their ass and picked it up before putting it back onto the pile. Can someone tell me how to wash produce? Like, is water enough or do I need something else too? You should see how much produce falls on the floor both in the back room and in the display section. I mean, I kind of thought we all knew that vegetables really needed to be washed after all that time in the ground, fertilized by crap, sprayed with insecticides. But if you didn't, maybe those kids did you a favor. Below than average tips. I work at a grocery store and please wash your produce, lol. Damn near everyone in the store touches it with their bare hands before you receive it. And if it falls in the floor, it goes right back up in the display. They come to us from suppliers where a million other people put their hands on them too. I once witnessed a little kid put an apple in his mouth as if to bite it. Then his mom took it out of his mouth, contact already made. Literal teeth marks in it, and she put it back on the display. People are so gross. LMAO, jokes on them. They just got a mouth full of dirt and pesticide. We all wash our produces before eating them, I assume. Did y'all forget what's been happening over the last few years? I consider eating unwashed produce a form of vaccination. Wait till you hear about slugs. I thought that was the worst of it. And the real essential workers from the grocery store showed me up big time in this thread. Damn, people are gross. As someone who works with produce, that's probably a mild case of reasons to wash your produce. Unless you know exactly what's happened from farm to your cupboard, wash it anyway. As someone who has worked in a grocery store before, I always check seals of products before putting them in my cart and always wash all produce once I'm home and before I eat it. Cringe thinking about anyone eating them unwashed, the things I have seen. There's way worse contamination that can happen from farm to grocery store. But if little Timmy germs get you to wash your produce, then that's great. Beyond what kids at the store do, the farm can be pretty nasty too. A lot of times cows are raised right next to vegetable crops. The cows poop and it runs off to the water supply of the irrigation system for the veggies. Sounds good for the immune system. Till people don't wash their produce. There's dirt and dead bugs on them. Soak them in a bowl and see all the debris floating out of the cloudy water. Bro, that's the least of it. I work for a major grocery chain. I've seen customers do the foulest things. Most of the time it's adults doing nasty poop. My wife's ex-in-laws, her first husband's family, were field hands in California. They washed every piece of produce. They pulled apart lettuce and washed each leaf individually. They scrubbed that shit. I figure if they do all that, I'm going to at least give everything a good rinse and pat dry before I assemble my BLT. Destroy the child. What do I do when I see someone reach their bare hand to feel a handful of sugar at the Winco bulk section? Till that there are people who don't wash their produce. Bought fruits in Egypt once. Washed it with bottled water and soap. Peeled it, and still got awfully sick. We have heard of restaurants not really washing the produce, anything for that matter, and you definitely don't see the chefs on cooking shows washing anything. I just imagine that they don't care because they are not eating the food until I see Kenji Lopez alt cooking for his family on YouTube. This guy frequently has articles on NYT and his food handling is really questionable. I work in the produce department at my local store. Absolutely wash everything. I'm sorry, but what is a produce? LPT, you have an immune system, and will be fine. I wash my veggies because bugs and dirt and pesticides too, I guess. Bonus if I wash off some goblin's cooties while I'm at it. Reminder that 95% of fruit has been in someone's orifice before it even reaches the market. EU nightmare situation. LMBO, what do you like to wash your veggies with? I usually use dish soap, but I worry about harsh chemicals. Not to mention we know have rat lungworm in the continental US, which is primarily contracted by humans when they eat raw produce, most often salad greens that an infected slug moved across. That parasite fucks people up for life. Also corollary, if you're concerned about consuming unwashed produce, avoid salads in restaurants. They don't always wash the greens. Seen ladies shove them up their ho-ha-has more than once in my career. Not to mention, you'll want to wash the adhesive goo that's left behind after you peel the little stickers off. What a terrible thing to do. Jesus Christ. That's not even close to the grossest story I've heard about grocery store produce. An OBGYN once told me a story about an emergency surgery involving produce that a woman thought she could remove herself and put back for someone else to purchase. Needless to say, the item became lodged and I invested in produce scrubbers wash. And a lot of baking soda. Face vomiting. Saw an adult walk by a stand of apples, and raw dog a sneeze right on them. LMAO. Good lesson. Couldn't agree more. I worked in produce before. We'd have people come in and try the cherries. That's fine. 1 or 2. No big deal. But don't spit the seed back into the inventory. Ever since working produce, I make sure to wash everything I can once I get groceries. LPT? Who needs to be told to wash their produce? Isn't this an obvious no thing everyone does? Ever since I seen the videos of rats and mice running through chili peppers and fresh and dried fruit, I've washed the shit out of every piece of produce. Indeed, a LPT, always wash your lettuce. Even brands that claim to be pre-washed. I've seen people get really sick from supposedly clean lettuce that wasn't. I will never buy from a bulk candy bin again after watching a kid do this. Yes. I told staff and his mother once I found her. I'm a cashier at a big chain grocery store, and the amount of produce people throw into their baskets, carts without a bagging is crazy. Like, we try and clean them as much as possible, but with rushes those as suckers get run through. That's the main one that gets me. Pretty much think about how many surfaces and people those produce touch before they get to your home. Edit. Another gross one is different packaged meats. Mostly organic chicken. Leak like crazy and those juices spread all over. We try and minimize that as much as possible with individually bagging those meats and wiping down the belt after those transactions. Grimace. Do people really not wash their produce before cooking, eating it? I thought washing your fruit and veg was a given. I appreciate the PSA, but don't you wash your veggies anyway? People who taste fruits at the grocery store straight out. So unhygienic. I never understand how people can do that.